They said the creature wasn't supposed to move, let alone look directly at the cadets with the kind of expression that usually precedes someone's obituary. The instructors had described it as containable and mostly docile. Yet the first thing Cadet Rhea Solis saw when the containment field flickered was a towering obsidian figure rising from its restraints like it had just woken from the best nap of its life. And then it smiled. Not a friendly smile. You look crunchy. Smile. Rhea's first instinct was to check if anyone else was seeing what she was seeing. Judging by the chorus of horrified gasps from her fellow trainees, yes, they absolutely were. The creature, designated X-0 Prime, was rumored to have shrugged off plasma cannons like confetti and turned armored vehicles into modern art. It was the kind of thing the galaxy used when it wanted to whisper nightmares into the dark. And here it was, stretching like a cat while the Academy's indestructible training arena flickered dangerously around it. Cadet June whispered beside her. I thought they said no weapon could hurt it. Yeah, Rhea replied, tightening her grip on the training rifle that suddenly felt like a child's toy. Good thing I didn't bring a weapon then. June blinked at her. What? But Rhea didn't clarify. Her mind was racing too fast, because the instructors were pounding on the emergency doors from the outside, shouting orders that no one could hear. The arena had sealed itself the moment the containment field destabilized, a safety feature that now felt like a cruel joke. The cadets were locked in with a legendary apex predator that the galaxy's finest warships couldn't scratch. Across the room, the creature tilted its head, as though listening to something only it could hear. Then it took a single step forward. The ground trembled. Not violently, just enough to send a message. A warm-up. A warning. Rhea swallowed, her heart punching the inside of her chest. Every cadet reacted differently. Some raised their rifles and fired, even though they knew it wouldn't work. Energy bolts splashed harmlessly against the creature's armor-like hide, leaving nothing behind but faint sparks of embarrassment. Others backed away, silently praying to any gods who accepted last-minute walk-ins. A few froze entirely, their bodies choosing the statue response in hopes the monster preferred moving snacks. Rhea, on the other hand, slowly reached into the pouch strapped to her leg, not for a standard-issue tool, but for the small, cylindrical device she'd smuggled into the academy on a dare. Back home, her brother called it that ridiculous thing you built in the garage. But she liked to think of it as her first real invention, a crude kinetic amplifier designed to redirect energy instead of absorb it. Unstable, experimental, likely to explode, but interesting. She didn't plan on using it during training. She especially didn't plan on using it in a sealed arena with a creature whose biography read like a horror movie script. But life rarely aligned with her preferred schedule. The creature's attention shifted toward a group of cadets trying to pry open a side door. It crouched slightly, the arena lights dimming as though even electricity feared it. Rhea could see the panic spreading through the room like fire. She wasn't a hero. She was barely even a good student. But she also wasn't ready to let her classmates become a documentary. She took a slow breath. I need a distraction. June stared at her in disbelief. A distraction? Rhea, what are you planning? Something stupid. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Nodded. Okay. How stupid? On a scale of trip over your shoelaces to blow up the arena, somewhere in the middle. June groaned. Of course. Rhea stepped forward, her boots scraping loudly enough to draw the creature's gaze. It turned toward her with chilling calm. Its eyes, if they were eyes, glowed like molten metal simmering under a lid. It studied her, curious, almost amused. Rhea raised her training rifle, not to fire, but to force its attention. Hey! Over here! Yeah, big guy. I know you can't be hurt. I know none of this is supposed to matter to you. But guess what? She slid the amplifier onto the rifle's barrel, clicked it into place, and braced herself. I don't follow the rules. The creature took one heavy step toward her. The air grew hotter, thicker, vibrating with its presence. Every cadet in the arena held their breath, watching a human girl in standard academy gear challenge the unkillable thing like it was just another drill. Rhea felt fear, yes, but beneath it, a spark of something else. Something reckless. Something stubbornly human. Because if the galaxy said nothing could hurt X0 Prime, she was very interested in proving the galaxy wrong. "Come on," she whispered, smile sharpening. "Let's test a theory." And for the first time, the creature's grin faltered, just slightly, as if it recognized the dangerous glint in her eyes. The glint that said she planned to hit it harder than anyone ever had. The creature charged like a collapsing star, each step bending metal flooring that was supposed to withstand orbital bombardment. Cadets scattered in panic until the arena resembled a chaotic storm of bodies and shouts. None of it slowed X0 Prime. It moved with predatory certainty, as if every human in the room were just background noise, except Rhea. She sprinted sideways, keeping her body low, gripping the modified rifle as the kinetic amplifier began to vibrate violently against her hands. The device wasn't built for something this big. It wasn't built for anything, really. But she didn't need it to last long, she just needed it to work once. "Rhea, get back!" June shouted, ducking behind a broken barrier as the creature's hand slammed into the wall where he stood seconds ago. "Can't," Rhea gasped. "It's focused on me." "That's good." "Good for who?" She didn't answer because the amplifier pinged, a high, sharp tone that meant the energy coils were nearing critical. Sparks crackled along the barrel. The next shot might tear the rifle, or her, apart. X0 Prime pivoted with a speed that didn't match its massive size. It lunged. Rhea dove under its sweeping arm, feeling the gust of wind generated by the swing. The shockwave that followed lifted her off the ground, sending her rolling across the arena floor. Pain flashed up her spine, but she forced herself upright. She had a window, seconds, maybe less. The creature crouched again, preparing to pounce. She fired. The amplified bolt wasn't a beam of light so much as a distorted ripple, a violent shudder in the air itself. When it struck the creature's chest, the impact didn't burn or pierce. It transferred all the kinetic energy outward like a gravitational slap. X0 Prime staggered. Not much. Not enough to injure. But enough to make it pause. Enough to make it look down at the faint scorch mark on its armor-like hide with something resembling surprise. Cadets froze mid-escape. No one had ever seen the creature react to anything. Rhea's heart nearly burst from relief, and then sank, because the amplifier emitted a long, sizzling whine. "Oh no no no!" She ripped the glowing attachment off the rifle and hurled it away right before it exploded in a burst of blue-white sparks, sending a shockwave across the ground. Cadets dove for cover. A chunk of metal plating flew past Rhea's head. Smoke curled from her hands, but she was alive. The creature, however, was annoyed. It turned toward her fully this time. No curiosity. No amusement. Just cold acknowledgement. She was a threat now. "Fantastic," she muttered. "Didn't think that far ahead." X0 Prime charged. She ran. The arena's emergency turrets activated automatically, popping out of the walls, tracking the creature. They fired a torrent of ion blasts, enough to reduce a cruiser's armor to slag. The creature didn't dodge, it simply walked through the barrage. The bolts fizzled on impact. The turrets overheated and shut down one by one, melting like wax candles. "Great!" June called out from across the arena. "So the turrets are gone, the instructors can't open the doors, and you just made it matter. Constructive criticism is not appreciated right now." Rhea darted toward a pile of overturned shields and snapped gear. The arena was supposed to simulate battlefield chaos, complete with debris. She didn't expect to be using it for real. She grabbed a cracked blast shield and held it in front of her. It wouldn't stop the creature, but maybe it would buy her half a second. X0 Prime closed the distance in a blur. It swung. The shield shattered like glass, sending Rhea flying again. She hit the ground hard, lungs screaming. Stars burst across her vision. "Rhea!" June raced toward her, but the creature intercepted him, slamming a hand into the ground between them. June stumbled back, terror on his face. Rhea forced herself onto her knees. She was running out of ideas, fast. She needed something new. Something stupid. Her gaze landed on the arena's gravity regulators, small metal nodes embedded in the walls, used to adjust simulation difficulty. If she could overload one, maybe she could create a gravitational pulse strong enough to knock the creature off balance. It wouldn't hurt it, but it could create another opening. She scrambled toward the closest node, ripping off a panel. The inner circuitry pulsed with soft blue light. "Please don't vaporize me," she murmured, jamming the wires together in a configuration that her instructors would have called illegal, dangerous, and grounds for expulsion. The gravity field flickered. X0 Prime turned toward her, sensing something shift. Rhea slammed her hand against the activation pad. A ripple burst outward, a sudden distortion that sent cadets floating upward in a brief moment of weightlessness. Equipment scattered into the air. The creature lifted off the ground by several inches and growled, the sound shaking the entire arena. Then gravity snapped back, harder than before. Cadets crashed down. Debris clattered across the floor. The creature stumbled, its first real stumble. "Yes!" Rhea shouted, then winced. "Ow! Everything hurts." June slid beside her, breathless. "You're insane." "Thank you." "That wasn't. Never mind." "What now?" Rhea stared at the creature as it rose again, slower this time. Not injured, but rattled. "We keep improvising," she said, adrenaline surging. "Because if no weapon can hurt it." She picked up a heavy piece of fallen turbine equipment, grinning through the pain. "We'll just have to invent one." And for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed the creature's molten eyes. It realized the humans weren't running anymore. They were adapting. The arena floor cracked under the weight of the creature's advance, each step a reminder that the next could be their last. X0 Prime no longer moved with patient curiosity, it moved with intent. Focused. Predatory. Determined to erase whatever human dared challenge its legendary invincibility. And Rhea, bruised, exhausted, and buzzing with more adrenaline than blood, stood her ground with a jagged turbine coil resting on her shoulder like a makeshift hammer. June grabbed her arm. "Rhea! That thing destroys tanks." "Tanks? You cannot hit it with that." "Not with this," she agreed, shifting her grip. "But with physics?" "Absolutely." June blinked. "Physics can go to hell." The creature lunged. The turbine coil wasn't meant to be a weapon, but the arena's malfunctioning gravity nodes had left everything a little lighter than normal. Rhea spun, using the last of the anti-grav flicker, and swung the heavy metal arc with the kind of reckless commitment her instructors constantly warned her about. The turbine slammed into X0 Prime's jaw. The impact didn't injure the creature, nothing physical could, but it redirected its momentum, tilting its massive body sideways. For the first time, the creature didn't land gracefully. It crashed into the arena wall, tearing through steel like it was cloth. Cadets gasped. June looked at her like she just punted a star. "That actually worked?" "Temporarily," Rhea said, panting. "Unfortunately, I can only break physics once per minute." The creature rose from the wreckage. Slowly. Deliberately. The molten glow in its eyes grew brighter, enough to cast faint shadows behind every trembling cadet. Something changed. It finally saw her, not as prey, but as an opponent. June nudged her. "It's looking at you like you're its midterm exam." "Good. I studied." She hadn't. Not for this. But she had an idea, one too dangerous to even consider. Which meant, unfortunately, it was perfect. "June, I need you to distract it for 30 seconds. 30? Rhea, that's like asking a housefly to distract a black hole." "You can do it," she insisted. "Just annoy it. Insult its chin structure. Or something. My funeral will be your fault." June sprinted off before she could answer, shouting at the top of his lungs. "Hey, ugly! Your skin texture looks like half-cooked steak." The creature turned toward him with visible offense. Rhea raced toward the main gravity node embedded at the center of the arena's ceiling. Accessing it meant climbing the half-collapsed scaffolding, dodging falling debris, and praying the creature didn't notice her before she reached the top. She climbed anyway. Below, June's voice echoed with pure suicidal comedy. "You call that a growl? I've heard stronger noises from my roommate's stomach." The creature swung, barely missing him as he leapt over a barrier. Rhea kept climbing, hands burning from hot metal, lungs scraping with every breath. She reached the control unit, a cracked panel sparking dangerously. The central grav core hummed inside like a contained storm. She needed to overload it. Not break it. Overload. If she set the gravity field to oscillate rapidly enough, she could create a localized zone of gravitational turbulence, like a whirlpool made of weight and momentum. X0 Prime couldn't be hurt, but it could be trapped. Distracted. Off balance. Long enough for them to escape. Or attack. She yanked open the inner panel. The energy coils glowed dangerously, unstable from earlier damage. "Please work," she whispered, jamming her fingers into the wiring. A shock jumped up her arm. She hissed but kept going. She crossed circuits that were never meant to meet, rewired stabilizers into destabilizers, and bypassed the safety lock that probably existed to prevent catastrophic disasters like this exact moment. Below her, June slipped. X0 Prime's hand slammed into the ground inches from his head, sending him sprawling. Rhea slammed her palm onto the activation switch. The arena shuddered. Gravity collapsed, surged, twisted, then snapped violently into an unstable spiral. A vortex formed around the center of the arena, its pull strong enough to drag metal debris into orbit. Cadets slid across the floor. June grabbed a railing, screaming, "Archie, what did you do?" "Improvised." X0 Prime dug its claws into the ground, trying to resist the pull. But the vortex tugged harder, warping space around it. For the first time, the creature struggled. Muscles tensed, plates along its body shifting as it fought the invisible force. Rhea climbed down fast, knowing the machinery wouldn't survive long in this state. "June!" she shouted. "Get behind cover!" "What about you?" "I've got one more stupid idea." She grabbed a loose power conduit sparking with raw ion energy. It felt like holding a thunderstorm. She sprinted toward the vortex, toward the creature. Ion energy wouldn't harm X0 Prime. But gravity could amplify momentum. If she threw the conduit into the vortex at the right moment, she hurled it with everything she had. The vortex spun the conduit faster, faster, until it slammed into the creature's chest with the force of a meteor strike. Not enough to injure, but enough to launch it backward, straight into the reinforced containment cage it had originally escaped from. The cage slammed shut, auto-locking. Cadets stared in stunned silence. June wheezed. You caged the uncageable thing." Rhea collapsed onto her back, adrenaline draining from her body. "Not for long," she whispered. "But long enough." Inside the containment chamber, the creature rose slowly. No fury. No outrage. Just respect. It looked at her, and smiled. A different smile. A dangerous one. The kind that promised the real fight was just beginning. The containment chamber trembled as X0 Prime pushed against the reinforced walls, not with desperate fury, but with deliberate pressure, testing, measuring, studying. It wasn't breaking out yet. It could have. Everyone in the arena knew it. The creature's earlier displays left no doubt. But now, its molten eyes stayed locked on Rhea as if waiting for her next move. The instructors stormed in at last, systems finally rebooted after the gravitational chaos she'd unleashed. Admiral Voss himself, all silver hair, stern eyes, and a permanent expression of exhausted disappointment, marched straight toward her. "Cadet Rhea Morgan," he said, "what in the name of every regulation ever written did you do?" She sat on the floor, still panting, covered in bruises, grime, and half-burnt metal dust. "Sir? I think the universe broke first. I just kept up." June, limping heavily, nodded with absolute sincerity. "She kept up by breaking every law of physics and several I'm pretty sure don't even exist yet." Voss pinched the bridge of his nose like he was trying to stop a migraine from evolving into a new species. The arena is in ruins. The grav core is unstable. Half of your fellow cadets are concussed. And X0 Prime. He looked toward the chamber. The creature had stopped pushing. It stood still, watching them, breathing slowly, powerfully, like a middle-aged god annoyed at what the children were doing but intrigued enough not to intervene. X0 Prime allowed itself to be captured. Voss finished. A hush fell over the entire arena. No one spoke. Because the truth was impossible to deny, the creature had been toying with them earlier. Nothing they threw at it could injure it. Nothing could even irritate it. But what Rhea had done, what she alone had done, changed something fundamental. She had made it curious. She stood shakily, wincing at the pain in her ribs. Sir, it wasn't about hurting it. It was about proving humans don't give up just because the universe is impossible. June muttered. Or extremely trying to kill us. That too, she admitted. The Admiral didn't smile, but his shoulders loosened. Your improvisation was reckless. Dangerous. Violated every safety protocol. You nearly tore open the arena's structural integrity. June raised his hand. Also, I think I lost my eyebrows. Noted, Voss said with deadly seriousness. Then the Admiral turned back to Rhea. But you accomplished something no one in the Academy's history has managed. He gestured toward the chamber. You forced X0 Prime to treat a human like a rival. And that makes you the only cadet who has ever passed the unbeatable trial. A wave of shock rippled through the survivors. Rhea blinked. Wait. Passed? Sir, I pretty much destroyed the room. The arena is reparable, he said. The lesson you demonstrated is not. But something else caught Rhea's attention, the chamber door. It was unlocking. Not failing. Unlocking. The massive reinforced panels slid apart with an eerie calm, steam venting out as if the beast itself had decided the test was over. Instructors scrambled for weapons. Cadets backed away. June immediately hid behind Rhea. Don't do that, she whispered. I'm squishier than you think. The creature stepped out. Not attacking. Not running. Simply walking, massive, imposing, the embodiment of impossible power, and approaching her directly. Every instinct screamed at her to move, to run, to hide. Her legs refused. It stood before her. The arena fell silent. The creature lowered itself slightly, enough to meet her eyes. And then, slowly, deliberately, it bowed. A deep, respectful bow. Cadets gasped. One instructor fainted. June whispered. Nope. Nope. I'm not built for this level of weird. Rhea swallowed hard. Thank you. X0 Prime straightened. Its molten gaze softened, not with friendliness, but with something sharper. Recognition. Respect. Challenge. It raised one massive hand and tapped its chest, then tapped hers gently with the tip of a claw, precise enough not to break skin. A warrior's acknowledgement. Before anyone could process it, the creature turned and walked toward the arena's breach, the hole it had originally created. It paused only once, glancing back at her, as if promising they would meet again. Then it leapt through the opening and vanished into the Academy's outer wilds. Chaos erupted. Instructors shouting. Alarms blaring. Cadets arguing. But in the middle of it all, Admiral Voss faced her with an expression she never expected, quiet, grudging pride. Cadet Morgan, he said, you didn't defeat X0 Prime. No one can. I know, sir. But you earned its respect. Humanity's greatest strength has never been its weapons. He nodded at her burned hands, bruised arms, wild grin. It's the stubbornness to try anyway. She exhaled a laugh. Honestly, sir, I was just trying not to die. That, he said, is precisely the spirit that keeps us alive. June, leaning on her shoulder for support, whispered. So, breakfast? Hospital? Both? Both, she said. And maybe a medal. You're getting a medal? He squeaked. No idea. But I'm asking. They limped out together as the arena lights flickered back to normal, The wreckage settling around them like the aftermath of a storm, they somehow survived. Rhea didn't feel victorious. She felt ready. Because somewhere out there, a creature that no weapon could harm had decided she was worth remembering. And she knew it wasn't done with her. Not by a long shot. Thank you? If you enjoyed this HFY story, make sure to subscribe to the Void Narratives for more epic sci-fi adventures.